All right. I am back with another Destiny 2 video and here to talk about what do you think? Vault of Glass. If you've been following my writing or my videos, you know that I was not able to play yesterday. Not that I was going to, because I'm not a day one person per se, but I wasn't able to watch the raid race live either because I had a wedding. I was following along on my phone as much as I could. And then I came back at night and watched a lot of the world's first stuff and some of the attempts by some of the bigger teams and things like that. And I think I am able to kind of form my opinion on how it looks at the very least, if not how it plays. Although how it plays is going to be significantly different this coming week once contest mode is no longer active. That will likely resume being hard once hard mode actually gets here. I guess it's master mode is the technical term for it, and if people are going for actual challenges and things like that. So I think it's a little, I think some people are kind of saying that it's too hard during an era where it's like supposed to be really hard. And people are just sort of starting to learn the new mechanics now. This does not strike me as something that is going to be exceedingly difficult in the long term, even with the changes, but I guess we'll see. First of all, I will kind of address that no, there were no real surprises here. There was no story beats that tied Vault of Glass's return in with the Vex season, which part of me is disappointed about this, but then part of me also realizes that Vault of Glass is coming back as a permanent addition, as a free raid, because they sunset all of the other free raids, and now this is the only one. So the game kind of needed that, and if it was something that was tied specifically story-wise into a temporary season, I guess that would be a little weird. I was hoping for some sort of like unlock or something after this, like Vault of Glass Crucible map. I don't know, something cool after beating the raid for the first time, but unless I'm missing something, that does not seem to have happened. But overall, I think I am at peace with it, and this is one of those instances where it's like, is the game better for this content having come back even without it really impacting the story in any way? And the answer is probably yes. We had this same conversation when the new strikes came back last season with the old dialogue and stuff, which was weird. But at least Vault of Glass doesn't have old dialogue or anything. It's just like this weird vault outside of space and time. So like it has story, and lore and stuff attached to it, but there's not like some ancient character talking to us for the whole duration of the raid or anything, so I understand that. In terms of how the raid actually functions now, the predictions that everyone had did pan out that, yes, of course, there are wyverns now, sacrificial wyverns, no less, and overload minotaurs and things like that. I assume, in what I was watching, I didn't see any barrier hobgoblins, but I assume there probably will be in master mode. Just guessing, and you can guess which parts they may crop up in. But the changes to mechanics, in that there are a lot more mechanics now, seem they seem okay. I think they seem challenging without being like impossible. They are heavily centered on team communication, where it's not just like going and killing oracles as fast as you can. It's you have to listen to the order, you have to see where they're appearing in order, then you have to kill them in order. In all these different segments, and then there's the complication of being detained and things like that too. So they have implemented kind of Destiny 2 style mechanics into the old system in a way that I think is actually kind of clever and good. I do realize this is pretty unforgiving, especially when you have like the Atheon encounter where you can't just like screw up and cleanse or something. Like if you screw up, like you lose. Like it's pretty much insta death. Again, I do think this is something that is being more pronounced by challenge mode, because if we get to a place where Atheon only needs 1 or 2 damage phases as opposed to 4 or 5 or whatever it was for challenge mode, there won't be as many opportunities to screw up, so it won't be as bad, I don't think. I think the way the way they kind of brought it back and remastered it is gorgeous. Keep in mind, this is like one of the first bits of Destiny content ever. It was originally developed for last gen consoles, so it is very ancient. I think the updates they did with the visuals and the sound design looked excellent from what I can see, and so I think they did a great job with that. The loot situation is interesting. So they do have a new slate of Vault of Glass mods that will help you in hard mode mainly. I don't know how important they will be for like normal clears. Given that I expect normal clears to be somewhat easy, and like you have a raid like DSC where like they have all those mods for DSC, but DSC is so easy that you don't need to use any of the mods. I understand why they brought back all the. What are you doing? He's dragging the whole bin. Okay. I understand why they kept the exact aesthetic, I guess, from the armor and weapons. It's just that I don't love that aesthetic because it was a time before there really was a raid aesthetic. Like that wasn't really a thing, and the only thing with the raid aesthetic is like the Vex Mythoclast itself, and everything else is just sort of like reshaded versions of existing guns or like relatively tame armor. So like I get it for nostalgia's sake, and the time loss versions of stuff do look cooler. In terms of how the loot functions, they have all new perks, which is very cool. I mean, some of them are reprised. You can get the old classic rolls on a lot of them. They even brought back Firefly just so they could make Fatebringer happen. But we have a lot of Destiny 2 perks, and then we have even a lot of perks just from this season, like things rolling with heating up and some of the new perks like that. I don't know if there's more than one, but I saw the Rewind Rounds perk, which seems to be a Vault of Glass specific perk, where you get ammo back based on hit shots, like during your current magazine, which is pretty cool. And that seems like a potentially very good perk. I know they are missing some weapons, but generally speaking, like the performance of the weapons seems like they'll be good. But this is also a season that has a ton of good weapons already in it. And I think you could probably make the argument that like a couple of the Season of the Splicer weapons are really, really good by themselves for this. I'm also curious to see how the raid's going to function without something just that's so blatantly massively overpowered like Breach and Clear, where like everyone's just tagging every boss with a Breach and Clear anarchy shot and just melting that way. I think that's going to make, it's like a 30% debuff at all times essentially. So bosses more or less have 30% health than less health than they would normally. You squeaking? You giving the bunny CPR? Okay. And I think it'll change once the seasonal mods are off, but like you could see that, the strats being used here are pretty similar to what we've seen, Divinity, people pumping succession rounds into things. And then in terms of supers like Chaos Reach, Thunder Crash, Wells, nothing too kind of out of the ordinary from the normal meta. Xenophage, like Anarchy, Warmind Cell, Aikilos, SMGs, like all the usual. So it didn't require like tons and tons of adaptation. In the final encounter, I saw people actually using like scouts and bows and stuff to pick off harpies, which is interesting. But that's kind of it. I am very impressed. That's so loud. What are you doing? I am very impressed overall with what they did here. I know that there are some technical issues. I know some people are getting disconnects and things, but that's just not unusual for the game in general. And it does not seem to be something, there wasn't some sort of widespread thing that was like preventing everyone from completing it. And I think the main focus of the bugs are there's a lot of bugs with the relic. Whereas like the relic isn't really working as intended. Like if you bump someone with the relic, like it deactivates it and like it won't cleanse and like it won't protect you from damage, and like there's some weird things going on with the relic to the point where some people had to adjust their tactics to kind of work around that completely, which is not ideal, but what are you gonna do? Hopefully that's something that can be fixed. I did not see any like crazy cheeses, but again, it was like world's first day and crazy cheeses might get you disqualified. They talked about how you can knock bosses off the edge. I have not seen anyone actually do that yet, so I don't think it's the same solar grenade spam on ATM that can still do that. Maybe if you have a video of that, let me know, but I haven't actually seen people doing that yet, even though they say it's possible. I think that this could have gone very wrong. Like if it came back and it was just way too easy and everyone was blowing through it. And then the loot was terrible, and like it didn't really live up, and they weren't able to kind of refashion it in a way that was interesting. It could have been bad. I think they achieved their goal. I really do. We'll see how it is without contest mode. It might be much easier then, but even still, I think there is a hard mode coming, and this does seem to be a successful experiment, and one that inspires me to say yes, sure, bring back the other raids. If this is the kind of treatment that they are going to give old raids, I would love to see Crota's End and King's Fall and Wrath of the Machine return. And I could see them doing some pretty interesting things with those. And they might even have to do less because raids kind of got more advanced as time went on. But that's I think the loot I would be almost even more excited about than the nostalgia of the VOG weapons based on I don't know, they were very cool at the time, but I think in context now of all the weapons in Destiny's history, like using these now, maybe not as much. And then Vex Mythic Class is live apparently. Does seem to be a random drop chance from the end of the raid. I am really hoping we are not in another Eyes of Tomorrow situation where bad luck protection is clearly broken and people are going to go like 80 VOG clears without Mythic Class. So we're not going to know that for a little while probably, but Eyes of Tomorrow is clearly still bugged. So if they're using the same system as Eyes of Tomorrow, it stands to reason that VOG might be bugged for drops of Mythic Class. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on consuming all of this and witnessing the raid race, and I will jump into non-contest mode hopefully this week sometime myself, throw a team together, and I might be hitting people up on Twitter for that. It has been a long time since I've run VOG, so I don't remember everything, and obviously at the time I did not run it a lot because that was back in an era where I wasn't playing Destiny as obsessively as I am now, and I never really did things like raids more than every so often because I didn't like getting teams together, and I didn't have this big community I could draw on back then 7 years ago. But times have changed, so I'm in a better position now. But all right, before EV starts a riot here, I guess I will go. But thanks you guys for watching. If you could remember to subscribe to my God Rolls newsletter, I would appreciate that. There's a link in the comments. And then to our new Forbes Games YouTube channel. Me and Eric are doing some videos there now. And we're slowly ramping that up, but that is going to be a long process. And that's some more kind of newsy things that I'm doing week to week now. But yep, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.